folks who have joined us today, irrespective of who we have. And we have Zalvam Daniel, who comes with a variety of experience, and he'll be taking up all questions, right? One last thing I wanted to, before we kickstart this session, you would see a questions tab on the right hand side of your screen, right? So if you have any questions for Zalvam, just put the questions on the questions tab, and there would be a like or an upvote button below every question, right? So just keep on upvoting, because I'll be picking up the most relevant questions to start with, and then we'll be moving forward. So just make sure that you ask all your questions on the questions tab and keep upvoting the relevant questions, right? So I think let's start, Zalgam. If you can just start with some brief introduction about yourself, what were you doing before Ola, how did you end up at Ola, and how did you kind of, what did you do at Ola, and in general, a brief career trajectory of yours.
Sure, sure. Thanks a lot, Garangi. I am, as you know, Zargam Daniel. I graduated from Jadavpur University in Calcutta in computer science and engineering. I graduated in 2019. Okay, and mine is like it's a different story. So I will tell you. So I got an internship in my third year in General Electric. There I was a summer intern, and then after my internship of 2 months, I got a PPO as well at the end of my internship, which I somehow declined the PPO. So I was confident that I will crack some of the companies, but during our placement season, I wasn't able to crack the companies that I was actually looking for. Okay, so the placement season went by, and the whole year went by actually, and I at the end of the college I didn't have any offer. So just before my final exams, a couple of months before, I think Scalar actually launched this interview based academy. It was called back then. So I gave the test. I was selected in that, and I joined the very first batch of Scalar in that was April 2019. Okay, and from then I started working with very hard on my on DS Algo and all those stuffs which are required for the interviews and all those things. And so it took me around like 1 year of consistent effort. There were a lot of rejections in companies. There were bad days when I used to feel very low. So after all those things, I finally got an offer from Ola in July 2020. Okay. And then I joined Ola. So in Ola, I joined. So Ola is, as you guys know, Ola is a startup, right? And it has several different areas which it works on. So the primary business is the cabs business, as we all know. That's where Ola started from. And there are other businesses that I think some of you might know or might not know. That is like Ola Financial Services, which actually offers you loans and insurance and all. Not loans, insurance, I guess. Yeah. So insurance, Ola Financial Services. Then there is Ola Foods. It was and then there was Ola Dash, which is like Instamat. And apart from that, we had Ola Electric, as we all know, which actually builds the scooters and stuff. And apart from that, we also had Ola Cars, which is just like Cars24 or Spinny, where you can buy and sell used cars. So there are a lot of different businesses under Ola. So I joined in one such business called as Ola Foods. Okay, so where we had this cloud kitchen based model where we will be delivering food to the customers, not like Swiggy or Instamart, which is actually like an aggregator. Okay, so they actually list down the restaurants, and the restaurants will make food for you, and they will just deliver it. We were not like that. We had our own kitchens. Okay, those were cloud kitchens. We had those kitchens placed in strategic locations across the city so that we can order the food to customer as soon as possible. So these were the things. And later on in my career, so after working in Ola Foods, I also got a chance to work with Ola Dash, which was actually kind of similar thing, because the business model was kind of similar. So we had these cloud kitchens where we actually placed our these things also. The dark stores, we call it, in case of uh, whenever you are building this last mile delivery options, just like Dunzo or this thing Instamart. So you have these places, warehouses, very small warehouses where you keep all the frequently ordered things. Okay, as I can say, and those places are called dark stores. Okay, so there it's not an actual store where you can go and purchase stuff. Only the guys from Swiggy or Instamart and this Ola Dash, those guys can go. So we had these dark stores at certain, again, strategic locations where from where we can to order stuffs, so that it can be delivered under 10 minutes. We had like last time, so we were delivering under 10 minutes, just like Zepto. Okay, and so yeah, I was with Ola Foods and Ola Dash, and I left Ola in February 2022. I mean this year, and I switched to Techion as a software engineer, SE. So currently I'm working in Techion, and yeah, that's all about me.
Great. That's such an informative and descriptive trajectory that you've given. And I'm sure a lot of folks here would be relating to you, having rejected a PPO, thinking that you'll get better offer, which you eventually did. I'm sure a lot of us here face the same dilemmas, right? So, and in a way, you are a veteran of Scalar because you belong to our first batch. So, in case everyone is wondering, this live session is presented by Scalar Academy. Okay, I'll give you a brief, very short description of Scalar. Scalar Academy offers a structured, flexible, expert-led program, and it is basically an online program for engineers built by engineers, where we help engineers master data structure, system design, with a focus on very keen focus on problem solving. Right? We have free classes, master classes that we have every week. We ensure that you become a solid, well-rounded engineer. So to kick off this session's album, I'll start with a overview of the process that you went through for ODA, right? From how many rounds were there, and then we'll take one round and we'll delve into it deeper. What kind of questions were asked in the round? Were there a lot of corner cases? What was the focus? Was it DSA, Algo, HLD, LLD program? So we'll just deep dive into each of these rounds, right? Let's just begin by a brief sort of overview of the entire process. How long did it take? How many rounds were there? If you can start with that.
Sure. Yeah. So when I applied for interview at Ola, so I was already you can say 1 year late to the industry. So they were interviewing me for the SD1 position. So when you are applying for SD1 position, the primary focus is on the problem solving skills. That is the DS Algo. So in my case, there were three technical rounds. Okay, there was no online coding test. There were three technical rounds followed by a hiring manager round. Okay, and so we'll go one by one. So during the first technical round, there were questions on like medium lead code questions. You can say easy to medium lead code questions, like questions based on Cadence algorithm. If you guys,
Yeah.
and similar questions like that. So like very basic two pointers, questions on arrays, string, very basic string questions, not the KMP one. Okay, so those questions were asked just to filter out, since there was no online coding test. They will have to know that you have some metal. You have to prove some metal that okay, they can go forward with your interviews. So that when in the interviewers also they spend their time on this, and this is usually done in the office hours. So that's usually valuable time. So they don't want to go with candidates who they think won't be able to get selected in the further rounds or like that. So yeah, that's how the first round mostly is. It's basically the screening, you can say. Okay.
Got it.
And
So I'm sorry to cut you. Let's just focus on the first round. How long did it last for? Who took your first round? And is there anything specific that they were looking for in the first round itself?
so the first round actually lasted for around 45 minutes. That's the
Hmm.
standard time that they have, okay, for all the rounds. And in some cases, if you're if you are very close to the solution and the interviewer actually thinks that you will be able to solve it, an extra 5-10 minutes doesn't hurt anyone. Okay, so and the kind of things that they actually look for in Ola or any other product based companies in general is the first thing is whether you are able to think out loud. Okay, so thinking out loud actually proves that you are actually moving towards the solution and you do not have mugged up the solution, you know and if you think out loud, and the first thing you start with the brute force solution and build your solution on top of that. Okay, you do not
Got
jump directly into the most efficient solution. So that's something that you have to keep in mind. Okay, otherwise the interviewer will get to know that you have done this question in the past, but even if you have done it, like you have mugged it up or something, that should not happen. Okay, so you basically start with the very basic approach, and then explain to him why you want to go this method, use this method to improve upon this, because there can be multiple methods to solve that particular question starting from the brute force, but you have to choose the optimal one, or if you can defend why you are choosing this one. So that is important. That
got
actually shows that well in depth of whatever problem solving and all, because each method has its own advantages and disadvantages. For example, if you are using some algorithm which is saving you some time, so it might
it.
actually get there is a disadvantage of space. You have to use some array or something instead of that time. So you have these trade-offs that you want to discuss with your interviewer, so that he can actually understand that
Got
you understand the concepts
it.
pretty
Got it.
clear.
Got it. So I can already see a lot of questions pouring in. Guys, just go to the questions tab and keep on asking your questions and keep on upvoting. So I'll pick up a question from Kapil Kumar for you, Zargam, since you mentioned that there were some lead code questions, right, in the first round. So Kapil Kumar here is asking us, is lead code enough for DSA?
Lead code enough if you do it religiously. If I think it's enough, because all the type of questions you will be able to find. So for example, if you are looking to solve a question on the topics of array, okay, you can find a lot of questions on array. You sort it down from easy to medium level like this, and then you start solving it. But the problem is that there are a lot of questions, so you have to be careful that you solve only very specific type of questions where you get the concept clear. So that's where actually Scalar helped me, because Scalar had this compiled of 20 questions from arrays, or let's say 40 questions. So there is this limit of constant number of questions that you have to solve. And I actually benefited from it because after solving those questions, the assignments as well as the homeworks, I was most of the concepts in, let's say, any topic arrays was pretty much clear. So whatever questions you get in any of the interviews, even today, if I am looking out or interviewing with some company, I almost clear all the DS algo rounds, just because I was pretty Scalar helped me with all these questions and assignments. So if you solve that honestly without cheating, then yeah. And for your question, lead code, yeah, I think lead code is enough. But then again, you have to solve a lot of questions because there are a lot of questions on that platform.
Got it. So last question I have pertaining to you in the round one is that what was the level of questions that were asked like in round one? If you can just, label them as easy, medium, or hard in round one specifically.
Yeah, it was pretty much easy and easy medium, you can say. So normally two questions are asked. Okay. So one will
Okay.
be easy and the other will be mostly medium or easy medium. Okay. And if two questions are easy or you are able to solve them pretty quickly, then they might ask you a third question. Okay, that will be a little tougher than the other two, mostly of medium level. Okay. And in the third question, I don't think they will ask you to code. You just have to tell about the algorithm. That's all.
Got it. Got it. So I think let's dwell into the round two. How long after round one did you hear back from Ola, and what was round two like? How was it different from round one? If you remember questions from either round one or round two, that would be really, really helpful for all the attendees of these sessions. So if you can just elaborate on that.
Sure, sure. So round two again was like standard 45 minutes. The time between round one and round two was again pretty short. I remember it was around 3 to 4 days. Okay, since Ola was also like hiring, they were looking for candidates. So it also depends on the companies. So some companies, when they're not very eagerly looking for candidates, then the time usually gets extended a little bit more. So yeah, and around about round two. So in round two, the questions were almost medium level. Okay, what you can expect is so let's say we have this something called binary search, where you search around the solution. Okay, I'm not sure if you can understand it, but if you have
Yeah,
the classes, you will have to first pick up an answer. A very very common problem is aggressive cows. If you guys have solved it, aggressive cows actually requires that concept of binary search. Okay, so it's not a plain vanilla binary search. You have to do it differently. So questions like that has more important in round two. Apart from that, you will be asked pretty simple DP questions. Okay, very basic kind of like you can expect the coin change problem. Okay, in round two. So those were medium, I would say, medium type of questions. And again, the focus was on how you actually come to the solution. You start with the brute force, and then you eventually move on. So the pattern is like you start with the question comes to your interview. The first thing that you have to do is go through the question very clearly. Okay, read it about twice till you understand it thoroughly. And after that, if you have any questions, post your questions to the interviewer. Most of the times interviewer actually expects you to ask questions, just like what are the constraints on this, or we have to, are there negative numbers as well. So these kind of questions you have to ask, because the question doesn't sometimes the questions doesn't contain all the relevant information. Okay, most of the things they on purpose they leave some things. Okay, so they expect you to ask that. So that's the first thing that you are going to do. And after that, once the question is clear, then the interviewer normally asks, now is the question clear? Then you have to say, okay, the question is clear. Then you move towards the solution. And as soon as you start solving it in your mind, please talk about it think out loud whatever you are thinking. You tell, you actually talk to your interview. The interviewer will actually listen to you, and mostly you will be talking about the brute force solution, okay, because that's the first one to start with. So you will tell the brute force solution to the interviewer, and the interviewer will actually agree on that, or it will ask the interviewer will ask you to code down this, either code down the solution, the brute force solution, or he will ask you, is there any other way to do this, or can we improve on time complexity or space complexity before this he will actually ask you the time complexity of that brute force solution. So please ensure that you actually have studied the time and space complexity properly, because most of the times I have seen candidates that they can actually solve the problem, but they fall short of this time and space complexity. Sometimes they make mistakes, okay, very corner mistakes. I mean, please be prepared with the time and space complexity of whatever solution you are writing and how you are calculating it, because you just can't bluff it out like n cube or n square. So most of the times that interviewer will actually ask you how you came to this n square or n cube. Then you have to explain, okay, this is the for loop, and or maybe sometimes you have to write a series. Okay, that is n plus n by 2 plus n by 4. So that is a geometric progression, and then you sum it up. So this is how you actually tell to your interview. So it's mostly like it will be like conversation kind of thing. And so yeah, so then it will ask, the interview will ask you to increase upon this time or space complexity or whatever. Then again, even if you have the approach in your mind, share it with the interviewer, think about it loud, and think about all the disadvantages that it will have without him asking. Okay, that shows that actually you are already thinking about advantages as well as the disadvantages of the solution. So if you are moving from brute force to some efficient approach, most commonly what we see is you are losing on space, right? In the brute force solution, you have no issues with the space, so you're not using any space or anything. But whenever you move from brute force to an efficient approach, you will be using some hash map or a set or anything. So talk about this to the interviewer. So okay, so yeah, once the interviewer, then he will ask maybe a couple of questions more, that okay, what will happen if we use this instead of this, or is there any other better approach? Okay, so these kind of things if we ask, then again you can talk about it, or he will just ask you to code it down, whatever solution you have just discussed with the interviewer. You can code it down, and that's when you start coding. Before that, do not start coding. Once you are completely sure of the solution with the interviewer, and the interviewer has agreed and he has asked you to write down the code, then only you start writing the code. So once you start writing the code, now the things to keep in mind is write a well indented code. Okay, do not place your if you are using tabs, use it perfectly. If you are using spaces, 4 spaces, okay, that's one tab, or 2 spaces if you want. And so keep indentation, keep your code clean. Okay, name your variables very clearly. Okay, so if you are using some variable where you need to store something, okay, let's say you want to count the number of sheeps, so the name of the variable will be sheep count. Okay, so things like which one after, so if just keep one thing in mind, that if any one other some random guy is reading your code, then he should be able to understand what this variable stands for. You should not name it like IJK. Okay, that's a bad style of writing code, and that should be avoided, because this actually scares the interviewer, because they don't like it that much. Okay, and so yeah, then you start writing the code. So these things to keep in mind. And apart from that, always take care of the, once you have written down the whole code, then please do not tell the interviewer that you are done with the code. Okay, that's a pretty common mistake. Do not do that. Test your code yourself first, okay, with a few test cases. First a normal test case, then whatever basic test cases that your interviewer has given you. Okay, so with the question he must have given you 2 test cases, let's say. So, and if he has not given you, ask him for a test case, okay, so that you can test it. And you run your code on those test cases. Either if you are doing it on Notepad or Sublime or anything, dry run the code. If you are using an online code editor, just like HackerRank or anything, then you can simply run it using the whatever functionalities are provided. Once you have tested your code with the whatever the interviewer has provided, then you need to test your code to the corner cases, because the interviewer will never give you the corner case as the test case. Okay, the corner case is up to you to find it out. Okay, so the corner cases will be mostly negative numbers, or zero, where your code gets undefined. So there will be places where your code will break. Okay, so those are the test cases that you will have to handle, that will come with the practice that you give. So whenever you are practicing on lead code or whatever platform you're using, so there, try to, after you are done with the coding, try to start with the test cases, so that you can, before doing the submit button, where a lead code actually shows you some test case whichever has failed. Before doing that, try to come on those test cases by your own, so that you can find out your mistakes by yourself, and that actually creates a very good impression in the eyes of the interviewer. So look for that, and once you are pretty sure that your code is covering almost all the corner test cases, that's when you tell the interviewer that okay, you are done with the code. The interviewer can have a look at it.
Zargam, that was very, very informative and very descriptive. I'm sure a lot of people they're asking for notes, so that says a lot, right? So I can see two questions on HackerRank on the chat, guys. Firstly, it's a request that put all the questions on the questions tab and keep upvoting. But since there are two questions from Sarwant and Ritvik, so they are basically wondering if HackerRank's questions are enough.
Sorry, hacker rank, you're saying?
Practice questions or practice is enough for preparing for product based companies and interviews at product based companies. Yeah.
Sorry, hacker rank or hacker earth? Come again.
Hacker rank.
Hacker rank. So
Yeah.
hacker rank, I personally, I do not feel that hacker rank will be enough for you for starting up. If you are from service based companies and you have never done competitive coding or hacker rank is a good place to start, because the question levels are pretty easy. Okay, but I don't think it will be sufficient for the product based companies out there, and plus the number of questions that are there in hacker rank, that is also pretty limited. So in my point of view, I don't think so. Hacker rank is not good. Lead code or hacker earth is also fine.
Got it. Got it. So I'll take another question. So Ananshi Saxena is asking, is it okay to have no personal projects, but if she's good in DSA, will Ola prefer them? Like, I think the question can be basically put as a, if there are no personal projects, how Ola would treat that person, or if they actually give a lot of importance to personal projects at Ola. So yeah.
Yes, this is a good question. So, for Ola or any other startups, just like Ola, personal projects are very important. If you do not have any personal projects and you're just going with the DS algo, I don't think your resume will be shortlisted. To be honest, they look very carefully at your personal projects, because that actually shows your development skills. And Ola is like a startup. Okay, things actually pretty move very fast in Ola. The working environment is pretty sped up. So it's pretty how well you write the code and how fast you write the code. Fast is again let's fast is you can actually uh, tackle that. Fast is not that important, but how well you write the code and whatever projects that you have done, that actually matters a lot. And you have to have something, at least two projects, I would say, on your resume if you are a fresher and you are going to the industry for the first time. So college projects or anything that you have done, and mostly try to keep it in Java, because most of the code base in Ola is written in Java, so they actually prefer Java candidates.
Okay. So you mentioned that projects are important, right? One avenue you said was college projects. So what if a person, since you joined Ola as a fresher, right? So I'm sure you would be able to help here. If a person do not have enough projects in college, how can he like go around his way to get projects, or like how can he like build his profile to be able to get shortlisted in top product companies wherever projects are important?
So, yeah. So even during my college, I was not able to do a lot of projects. I think maybe even one or two I have done. So after that, I joined Ola. Sorry, after that I joined Scalar, and in Scalar, I was fortunate enough during my tenure with Scalar, I was able to do a couple of more projects. So one was in Java, one was in Python. So that way, I got saved, that I put it on resume, and the projects were actually very impactful also. So I remember one such project was Go Pedal. My project was, so it's about a, like, in a city you are having bicycles across the city, spread out, kept at random places, and people can actually go there, unlock the bicycle with their phone, and they can take a round around the city or wherever from point A to point B, and then they can keep this bicycle at point B. That was my project, and that actually was the interviewer actually asked me about this project in my hiring manager round. So that's a different version. But if you do not have any projects, you are a fresher, please try to get something from the internet. Like, I think there are different websites like Coursera or Udemy, where you can actually build projects in Node.js or Java or anything. If you can search for them, they will actually, there are video tutorials on how to build something. Try to build something. Failure is very common. Okay, don't be afraid of that. If you're not, like, most of the times what happens, we are trying to build a project and we actually lost interest in like halfway or midway. Okay, that is also fine. Okay, it's not like you have to complete the project. Start with that. Eventually you will be able to build something that is actually presentable, okay, to the interviewer and anything. And always try to put a git link of that project in your resume whenever you are mentioning the projects. A git link, and if there is a functional website, please put that. So, and functional website will be, it will be pretty impressive if you can put that functional website where your project is actually running on some server.
Got it. Thanks, Varnam. That was very insightful. I have a question. Is there any, so since you mentioned that Ola prefers Java, right? So during the interview process, is the preference the same, or do they allow people to code in any language of their preference, and post joining they prefer Java? So if you can like throw some light on language preference during the interview process, what if someone's not very comfortable with Java, or if he's more comfortable with some other language? So is that a hard, I would say, criteria for Ola?
So if you are joining as a fresher, there is no restrictions on the language. Okay, you can code, and even as a non-fresher, if you are doing for the problem solving round, the DS algo round, you can code in any language of your choice. There is no restriction that you have to use Java. Okay, that's point number one. Point number two is, if you, even if you are not a fresher, then a prior experience of writing code in Java helps. But again, that is not something that they're very keen on. Even if you do not have a background in Java, and you are, if you can take out a month or two and you go through the basics of Java, that is also fine. The only thing, if you're a non-fresher, the only thing that they will be looking for are your design skills. And by design skills, I mean the LLD and the HLD round, the low level design, the high level design. And in low level and high level design, things are pretty much same across the languages. So whatever the OOP concepts are there, these concepts are pretty much same. So in that case, you will have to write on the entities and all the relationships. So that is language independent stuff. And again, DS algo, you can code in any language. So it doesn't really matter. So, and uh, once Ola will pick you up, you are able to clear the interviews, then you can easily pick up any Java. You can easily pick up the Java language if you have coded in any other language. So language is not really a barrier.
Got it, got it. So Shubham, Lakhara here is asked, since you touched upon working at startups and how fast-paced they can be, right? So he's asking us how much prep is required for cracking any sort of product startup, if I may want to put that question that way. And he's asking like how much efforts, like for example, if a person is a fresher, right? How much time did you dedicate to practicing coding, to practicing questions when you were with Scalar or when you're not with Scalar? So in case you can like just give a brief overview of your preparation strategy. How much time did you devote? What was your consistency like? What topics did you focus on? Specifically, when you want to get into a top product startup.
Yeah. So the first thing that I had in my mind was I wanted to get in a good company or a good startup, because even when I was not, I didn't have any job after college. I actually got two more offers, but I had to decline them because I was not very keen on joining them because of, it was not my preference. Their work was something that I was not looking forward to. So the first thing was the mindset. Okay, that I had, that I have to join a good product based company. And that's where it comes that you have to put your efforts, in that direction, as well as the magnitude of the efforts is all, and that also matters. So the first thing was, you have to be ready for doing all the hard work. So I actually practiced around, I think, yeah, 500 problems, 499 or 500 problems on this skills platform. And the problems varied on the all the topics. Okay, right from arrays and strings to backtracking, DP, and everything. And I used to solve the question. So when I was in Scalar, I used to solve the questions on a regular basis because we had these assignments and homeworks so that you have to solve. I used to solve them, and again, even after solving, I had to go through it 2 3 times. Like once I am done solving all the problems, then there were some questions that I couldn't solve. Okay, so I used to go back and then give it a shot again. Okay, because that will actually strengthen your concepts. Okay, even when you, I would say, even when you're done with all the topics, revisit them. Okay, and try to solve them. So that will actually increase your, what happens is whenever you are so leave aside all these questions of whatever you are given on Scalar or any other lead code platform. Let's say the interviewer gives you a random question out of the blue. Okay, that the question that you have never seen before. So that's when your practice comes in. Because today, if I see a question, I normally think in a particular direction just because I had practiced that much. Okay, so I think 3 to 4 hours of daily practice on DS Algo is almost, again, it depends on your speed, how fast you are, how quickly you are able to solve the questions. But again, try to solve at least 15 questions. I would say it's 15 solid questions of different varieties, not the questions of the same varieties, of every topic every day. And then once you're done with all the topics, try to mix up the questions, try to pick up questions which have multiple topics, like arrays plus DP, let's say arrays plus this thing, binary search. So multiple topics, so pick up those questions. So those will strengthen your concepts. Then there are certain websites, okay, like Daily Coding Problem, okay, and you must subscribe to that website, or it's like a subscript mail newsletter kind of thing. Okay, so they will actually give you one coding problem every day on your uh, mail account, Gmail or whatever you are using. That is free, completely free of cost, and you have to solve it, and the solution comes the next day. So that is also one very good way to keep the consistency going on, and keep practicing. And they will not tell you what the problem is about which topic. Okay, so that is one very important thing. So once you're done with all the topics, then pick up questions and don't sort them. I mean, you should not know which topic that question belongs to. That is very important. Okay, so because once you understand that, okay, this question is from array, then it's pretty easy to think in that direction. But the questions that you will get on the interviews, you won't be having the topic next to it. So once you are done with all the questions, take these questions and take the questions without the topics. That is most important, so that you can have a variety of different solutions in your mind, and you are able to pick that one particular solution that actually belongs to this question.
Understood. Really helpful, Raghav. So I'll take two very similar questions. So Ramshi and Shiva have asked if the questions given by Scalar are sufficient to crack any assessment or interview. And Swaranshi has specifically asked for DSA. So essentially, basically, they're trying to ask if Scalar questions are enough for you to be prepared well enough for product-based companies.
I would say yes, because when I cracked Ola, I just had this. I was preparing only through Scalar. Okay, I was not preparing lead code or anything. Sorry, the questions that are there on Scalar are of different, like it covers a lot of variety. So if you're going through some topic like array, I think you will find around 20 or 30 questions that will almost cover all the concepts. Okay, so you can actually expect questions of like the same questions in the interviewer, to be honest, in the interviews, to be honest. Even if you're not able to get the same questions will be on the same lines. So I would say the questions on Scalar are pretty helpful. You can I mean, you can be confident after solving all of them honestly. You can be confident of cracking any product based company.
Got it. Great. Thanks, Begum. So let's quickly move on to the round three. How was it different from round one and round two? If you can remember what specific focus was on round three and how long did it last? Who took it for you and how was your experience in general?
So again, round three had a gap of around 3 4 days. Okay, so these gaps are less because I was not working in any company at that point of time. So the interview, so whatever the HR was, so they can actually schedule these rounds on any random daytime also. When you are working somewhere, it's actually a bit difficult because you have to prepare also, so you won't be getting much time. So 3 4 days after round two, I got my round three, and in my round three again it was 45 minutes. The interviewer joined, and I was given questions. This time it was mostly medium or a medium hard, you can say. So around graph, okay, around DP. So questions were like that, and then there will be questions which are actually modified of the medium type. So for example, there are questions where uh, there is an array given, okay, and there is a number given, and you have to select three numbers from the array which actually sum up to that particular number. Okay, so the very basic solution is n cube, but then again, the interviewer is obviously not looking for that. So you will have to build up solutions on that. Then how different approaches are there, again like the same thing. Only the level of the question increases. And regarding DP also, you will have to go with the brute force and then come up with whatever DP solution is expecting. Again, you don't have to uh, call it DP in front of the interview. Just tell them that you can memorize this thing. So you have to build a solution in that manner. So you will say that, okay, I can use recursion over there. So the interviewer will ask, okay, how can recursion help you in this situation? So you will say that recursion won't be helping because recursion doesn't help. Okay, let's be honest, because the thing that helps you is memoization. You actually store the results after doing recursion, so that thing actually helps. So once you write the recursion, and you have to write the code in that fashion, that if you write the code in that fashion, that actually impresses the interviewer very much. What fashion I mean is, uh, you write the recursion part, then you write the base case, and then you try to run the code, and that's when you put the memoization, so that you know where to put the memoization, whatever storage that you are going to do. So you do it this step by step, and not write it like in a one go. So that actually shows that you are trying to solve the problem correctly, like you understand the question, you understand the solution as well. That actually gives a very good impression to the interviewer.
Got it.
So yeah, and regarding graph questions, again, you will have to be thorough with the graph algorithms that are there, like Dijkstra's algorithm, for the shortest path. Then there is Prim's algorithm, then minimum spanning tree. These type of these all these concepts that are there, you have to be thorough and keep these concepts in your mind whenever you are appearing for interviews, and especially for almost all the product-based companies, I would say, because graph is something that they actually look for. And trust me, graph is actually not that tough. Once you get the concepts clear, then it's pretty much you just have to keep a clear head and just write the solutions.
Got it. So I can see a question by Krishna. So what are some important concepts and algorithms and data structures? If you can like pinpoint some two, three important concepts that someone needs to know when they're appearing for product-based companies, what would they be?
So, see, for the product-based companies, the concepts again, the graph algorithms are very important. Okay, and apart from that, dynamic programming. If you are, DP, so try to practice as, because there is no concept in DP. Try to practice as much as possible, because DP is a pretty, it's like a different thing. You will have to practice in order to get a grasp on it. Apart from that, one very important, I would say, concept is again the searching on solution in binary search, where you search around the solution. I don't know how to explain this. Again, look for the problem named as aggressive cows. Okay, search for it. Whatever, try to solve it. If you're able to solve it, that's very good. If you're not able to solve it, try to look at the solution and try to understand the solution. If you can understand the solution, that's where that is the thing that I'm talking about. Okay, that is not plain vanilla binary search. That is very important. Apart from that, there are certain algorithms that are very important whenever you are appearing for interviews. Keep them in your notes so that you can revise it every day. One is KMP algorithm. Okay, the other one is cadence algorithm. Okay, and apart from that, I don't Moore's algorithm, Moore's voting algorithm. Okay, so these are the, again, if you subscribe to that daily coding problem, you will get almost most of the questions, one question each day, so that these things, keep a note of these things, and you will be able to apply it, after 2 3 days on random questions. So this way you will be able to practice, and these things will be at your fingertips. So that is very important. Apart from that, the concepts that are there in, so we have covered strings, backtracking. You need to understand backtracking. And okay, again, write the code in such a manner that the interviewer can understand that you actually understand backtracking. I was giving one interview for one MNC, and I remember I was writing the this thing backtrack. It actually gave me the backtracking problem, and I was writing all the recursions, and that's when he asked me where will the base case. So that's when I told him I'm writing the base case. I was just looking for the possible scenarios. Okay, so that's where I then finally wrote the base case, and he was impressed, because you will have to put your best case. You will have to put your base case in a particular location. You cannot put it anywhere. So you have to identify that location. Okay, so write the code in this fashion. Do not write the, like, start writing the code. You write the function, then you write the base case, and then you all those things like line by line, line by line. That actually shows that you actually have mucked up the code or something. Okay, do not, like, try to avoid that, I would say.
Very helpful tip, might I say. So Vishnu here is asked, does Ola prefer non-CS background students if they have good BSSL? So I think we can take this question as, is background a very important or a very key factor when we, want to join Ola? Like, if a person has good skills, will they actually consider him over a person who might not have the good, like I would say, who would have a good background or a CS background, to be very specific, but not equally good skills, right? So how much importance is given to your background when it comes to Ola and interview processes at Ola?
Even if you are from non-CS background, okay, and you are a fresher, so then they actually prefer candidates from very good colleges that I have seen. Okay, if you are not from a very good college, your chances are a little slim. Okay, and this was for freshers. And if you are a experienced guy, then I think Ola doesn't discriminate between product and service based companies. Even if you are from service, I actually had people in my team from service based companies, and Ola is still, I think, hires from service based companies. So doesn't look for a background in experienced people, as long as you can clear the interviews.
Got it. So I think one more question on a very similar line is by Rashmi. So she, I think, is pursuing the Scalar program because she's asked, will they consider the candidate coming from a different stream but pursuing Scalar program, or any program which essentially is helping him or her develop the skills that they require, right? So if yes, will he be considered for SD1 role or SD2 role? So I know it's a very open-ended question. We don't have the background or experience, but like if, in general, if like a person is coming from a different team, so I think SD1 would be the correct, stature of the person, right? If I'm wrong, you can correct me. Correct,
Yeah.
Zarga? Yeah.
Yes, yes. So if so, this has happened in my team actually. So there was this one person who actually had a pretty good, like, 2.5 years of experience in a service based company, and that guy actually joined our Ola. So he was given an SD1, while another guy of the same number of years of experience in a product based company, but he was given SD2. Okay, so yeah, so that actually happens. So you will be given SD1 if you are not from a product based company or like that.
Got it. So I can see a lot of questions from freshers, and Zargam, I think you're the best person to answer this one. So they like Prem here is asked, I'm a fresher. I'm good in HTML and CSS, but I want to be like applying for more product-based companies. So what is the next step? Like, how can one make the most out of their college, or third or fourth year whenever they're in college? So how can a person utilize that time and actually end up where you are, right? Because you directly joined Ola, which is an aspirational company for a lot of folks here.
Yeah. So I would say, right now, if you are in college and you are doing HTML and CSS and all those stuff, so you are basically doing the website development kind of stuff. So I would say, first thing that I would say is, if you are looking for joining Ola, Swiggy, these kind of startups which are actually fast paced, please do not leave your DS algo behind. These are very important. Okay, for your interviews, no matter how much DS algo will be there, that will be asked. So please do not leave that. Put equal focus on that. Apart from that, whatever you're doing, HTML and CSS, that is just HTML and CSS is not enough. Try to come up with more, like, build a robust website, or other things that are there in website. I'm not very informative in website development, but I'm sure, like, there are other stuffs apart from HTML and CSS. So try to use that. Then try to put the backend also. Maybe server side you can build on Node.js or anything. So try to build this whole thing, and then you can put it as a project. So that will be really impressive. Apart, in addition to the DS algo that you have. So try to, also one more thing. So if you are using going for DS algo, try to actually go for these competitions that are there on this Code Chef and all those platforms. Okay, and you have some ranking and all that. So put those rankings as well. There is this Google Kickstart. Okay, that's actually a very good sports that actually happens, I think, once every month for around 9 months in a year. So try to participate in that actually. So what happens is, your when it shows in your resume, that actually shows something that you know coding and all that. So when there are times when actually I haven't appeared for the interviews, and the interviewer has seen my resume, gone through my resume, and seen that okay, I have participated in Kickstart and I've got this some two or three digit rank. Okay, then the interviewer actually says, okay, you are pretty good in DS algo, so let's solve this question like that. So try to go to all those competitions if you are a fresher. If you are a working employee, I can understand, like, you won't be getting a lot of time, so that's fine, but put your effort in whatever projects that you are doing.
Got it.
Yes.
So I can see a lot of questions around the project. As you mentioned, projects are important, right? So Sahil and Venkata here has asked, is there any kind of projects that will make them more likely to be shortlisted, or is there any kind of project that Ola typically preferred over the others? So do you have any insight there?
There is, like, Ola or any other this thing, startup, they don't discriminate on whatever projects you are building. Okay, as long as you are building something which is okay, like I built this thing, Go Pedal, as I told you about the bicycle platform, where you can actually go and get your bicycles. So because see, Ola or these are startups that have multiple businesses. Okay, Ola just doesn't just have the rides, the cabs business. It has a variety of business, like the Ola financial service, foods, and all that. Okay, so when you are having variety of business, then it doesn't matter. There are a lot of things that you can actually work on the project. Okay, to showcase to your whatever dream company that you are going for. But if you are applying for a blockchain company, I would suggest you to do a blockchain project that will actually improve your chances of getting selected in the blockchain, because blockchain is pretty new and not a lot of people know about this. So the companies that are hiring for blockchain, they actually have this in their mind that the candidate might not know a lot of stuff. And when you actually show them that okay, I know these basics or I have done some project, that is actually pretty helpful. So that will increase your chances for sure.
Got it. Let's move on to the last round before we run out of time. What was the last round about? How long did it last? I think it was in hiring manager round, right? If I'm not wrong. So if you
Yes.
can just quickly focus on the stuff that they wanted to check or they were seeing in you, because it was the last time. I'm assuming there were a lot more things than just the technical skills, right? So if you can throw some light there.
Yeah. So in my last round, it was a hiring manager round. The hiring manager round is basically with the manager of the team that you are going to join. Okay. So this happens in most of the companies. Okay, not all. If not all, most of the companies. So this was the hiring manager round, and it started with a brief introduction as usual. So what do I do and where I am from and all that. Then the interviewer, which is the manager, it tries to introduce the team that the manager is working on, so whatever they do, okay, and all that. And then the interview starts, so the questions basically start. So mostly there will be one technical question around coding. Okay, that will also be, you won't have to be required to write the code for it. Just you'll have to explain the algorithm. Again, start with the brute force. Most probably the interviewer will actually ask you to improve upon that. Okay, so you talk about the optimal solutions and all, and you will not be most of the times, I think 9 or 10 times, you won't be required to code the solution. And post that, the question starts around your projects if you are a fresher. And if you are not a fresher, if you are a working guy, then whatever stuff you have worked upon on your previous company. Okay, so those things starts happening, and in your projects, then there are very important things that you need to keep in mind while posting your projects on your resume. Do not post projects which you have not done. Okay, there are examples I know of my friends, or people who have actually wrote about projects that they actually have not done. Someone else or their friends did it, and they have just wrote it. So what happens in this case is, you do not know the nitty gritties of the project, or where the project went wrong and all those details. So when the interview, and the guy you are interviewing with is the manager of a team, so he has probably a lot of experience, a lot more senior to you, and he can actually find out if you are not if you have not done the project or you are faking it. He can actually find it out, so please do not do that. Try to avoid that. And he so how he will find it out is, he will grill you with questions around the project that you have. So what actually went wrong in your project, so that keep these questions in mind before appearing for the hiring manager round. Always keep things like, make notes of it. Where did the project, you might be having some problems. No project is like a cakewalk, you start and you end it very peacefully. It never happens like that. There will always be some hiccups and all that here and there. So keep a note of it. Okay, keep a note of it and try to elaborate on what on all those hiccups to the hiring manager or the interviewer that you have. And then the interviewer will also ask you about what could have been done instead of this approach. So if you have not taken the approach that you have taken in your project, what other approaches did you have? So that actually shows that you actually researched about all the approaches and then selected this approach on on certain findings or research or anything. Okay, so keep this in mind. Please keep the other approaches ready for because the interviewer will definitely ask you for this. So and after this, why didn't you choose the other approaches that were there? Why did you go with this approach? And finally, they will ask you what are the future prospects or what are the other things that you are going to add in this project. Okay, always keep a list of whatever future things or you will be adding in this project, because don't tell that this project is done and I will not be working on it. Keep it open ended. Okay, like for example in Go Pedal you can actually uh, tell them that okay, we are also planning for cities, sorry, we are also planning for bikes. Okay, and we will keep multiple features also, like talk about features, very important. Talk about the different features that you will be going to have in future. Okay, one such feature that I was thinking about Go Pedal was showing the weather in their app, so that the since this it's a bicycle, it's an open roof vehicle, so a weather forecast would be very helpful. So integrating that with your app. Okay, so these things actually shows that you have some plans for near future. And yeah, so you will talk about whatever future plans that you have for the project. And mostly then the interviewer will ask if you have any questions about their team. Okay, or their company. If you whatever company you are interviewing for, always have questions for the company that you are interviewing for, because that will show that you have interest in joining their company. Talk about their team, even if they have mentioned it before. Again, ask them like different questions like what does your team do. Then he will tell you, okay, we have this so and so things. Okay, so how is it done? I have seen that in some places it is done like that. Or I have seen, like, let's say if you are interviewing for Ola, so how do you actually manage to get rides for people? Okay, talk about the problems that you face on using Ola. So let's say you're not getting rides for these days. Okay, so you can talk about that, like what could be the situation, why is it from a technical point of view. Okay, what could be the situation, why are we not getting rides and all. So these questions you must keep in mind. Okay, you should not be blank when the interviewer asks you if you have any questions. Please ask questions to
Got
any
it.
company.
Got it. Very helpful. So I can see a lot of curiosity around Scalar referrals. So Swaranshi here is asked, how many referrals did Scalar provide, like from your personal experience?
Sorry, I didn't get the question. How many what?
Referrals did Scalar provide when you were, enrolled with Scalar?
I actually got a ton of referrals when I was enrolled in Scalar. I was getting rejected back to back. I don't know. I was not prepared very well, I would say. So and the referrals were actually from pretty good startups, 1MG, Amazon, all those companies that you can think of. Okay, so referrals were all. So we had this tab, right? I think the tab is still there, RevGraph or something it's called. So
Correct.
there you can track all the companies, and you know you will get a lot of referrals. Mostly it will be very good startups and very good places to start your career with. That I can say for sure.
Got it. So I can see some of the questions on resume. Vinith here has asked if you can just give 3 pointers of what one should do while preparing their resume. So some generic tips that would be helpful for folks in general.
Okay, keep your resume very neat and clean. Okay, the first thing is what by that I mean, you should not put down information that is not relevant. Your address or your residential address is not relevant to the interview. Please do not put that. Your picture is not important to the interview. Do not put that. So these things you can avoid. Keep it short and crisp. Okay, to the point. If you have got a certain rank in some, mention that. Put it in bold actually. So there are certain things that you want your whoever is screening your resume, you want that guy to notice it. There are certain things like put those things in bold. Like my rank in Kickstart, I put that in bold. Okay, or I had a 5 star or 4 star in code chef, so I have put that in bold. Then whenever you are writing down your projects, keep certain So first thing is you write down in points, not write in paragraphs. Okay, because nobody has time to go through the paragraphs. If you write points, that is actually helpful. So whoever is screening your resume, they will go through those points. And when you're writing points, again, bold down stuffs which are actually important and you want the interviewer to notice. For example, you built so and so, which actually, if you are a working professional, you have built so and so, which actually improved the company's performance by so much percentage. So improved the company performance by X percentage. This should be in bold. Okay, so these things you have to keep in mind. If you are a fresher, mention that you have used this to, like, you have used Google Maps API integrated with your app. Okay, so Google Maps API integrated with, only this thing is important. I mean, this thing is enough for the interviewer to notice that you have used Google Maps API, you integrated it with your app. So these things that should actually come in bold so that the interviewer can actually, because there are lots of resumes when someone is screening your resume. Okay, and they will not read it line by line, so they usually skim through the resume. And when you're skimming through the resume, the bold points are actually the ones which you actually see. So keep those things. And whenever you are writing on projects in your resume, always mention the tech stack that is used in the project beside the name of whatever project was there. Okay, keep it in italics or anything just to differentiate that this is the tech stack. So that is also important. Yes.
Great. Very, very insightful. So, Zargam, we are towards the end of the session. If you can quickly sum it up in like three, four, pointers, what is important? What is it that takes for a switch from service-based to product-based company? How can one approach? So, for example, if someone's starting from scratch, what are the first few steps that he needs to do to make this successful transition to product-based company? So, just to sum it up and just to, give a brief of the session to everybody who's present right now.
So actually, my flatmate that I stay with in in Bangalore, he actually made a transition from, sorry, service based company to a product based company with a salary of 3x jump. Okay, and he's actually also in Scalar. I actually referred him to Scalar, and that's where it went wrong. And apart from that, the three very, like 2 3 things that I would like to mention is consistency is very important. So you practice question. It's not like you practice 10 questions in a day and the next day you just take rest. It's not like that. Practice whatever questions that you are practicing. Keep it daily. Keep it like a habit. So Scalar has this thing called, I think, streak. Maintain that streak. Okay, because once you start maintaining that streak, that actually becomes a habit. So you have to solve certain 200 questions, or sorry, 200 points in a day. Okay, or 500 points in a day. So keep that habit, consistency. And the other thing that I would say is keep trying different types of problems. Okay, always look for problems, like whenever, even if me and my friends are discussing something, like let's say some new tech has come. Okay, let's say Instagram has rolled out a new feature. Talk about it, like how Instagram would have done it on us, because it has got a lot of users. So it's not that simple like a DSLGO problem. Okay, so you have to think about it. Once you have discussed about it, if you get time, go on a website. There are very good websites that actually tell you about how the infrastructure and all the high level systems, those kind of things work. So talk about, make it a part of your life. Okay, so that's when you will be able to discuss it with your friends and then think about it. So these things happen when you make it a part of your life. Okay, so that's one thing. Apart from that, do not lose hope. Actually, like when I was preparing for the interviews, so you can understand my situation. I was out of college. Okay, and my college is, it's a good college. Okay, so all my friends are actually placed. Most of them, like almost all of them, were actually placed. They were posting pictures in their WhatsApp of moving to Bangalore, or some even went to New York. They were posting pictures, they were cooking food, they were enjoying, they were going on treks and all that. And I was here, preparing for interviews. So that was actually pretty heartbreaking because I also had declined in PPO. So those things will actually be there. There will be days when you will feel like, you just need to give up and all. But I would say keep hustling, because one day you will be able to, get all the fruits for whatever hard work that you have done. That day comes for sure. Just don't lose hope.
Thank you, Zargam, for such an informative and such a lucrative session. Please give him a thumbs up. Whoever found this session helpful, I'm sure it would be everybody. We have 176 people online still. So, guys, this session was presented by Scalar Academy. If you want to talk to more of our alumni directly one-on-one, I have just pinned the form where you can, fill in your details, and we'll get back to you with a suitable alumni for you. And yeah, see, Zargam, everybody agrees with the informative session. We have gotten a lot of transcripts. So thank you so much for taking out the time to for this session. And actually, your answers were very, very helpful and very to the point, in the way that, you know, a person who's actually just out of college would understand, right? You just dealt so much deep into the depth of each of these answers, and you actually gave a smallest to the biggest